Hello and welcome back to the Soldier's Manual Civilian Edition. Tonight we're going to be talking about a very important topic, but first of all, excuse the scenery. I'm filming in my shop and I'm playing around with different locations. The lighting's not the best, the scenery is certainly not the greatest, but bear with me. Got a lot of good stuff to talk about here. So I've entitled this section Making the Transition. Got my notes here because I tend to ramble and I'm trying to keep this concise and to the point. So first of all, I want to say making the transition from combat back into civilian life, it will be difficult. There's no way around that. I have no quick fixes. It's gonna take some effort on your part. You might find it a little difficult. It's an ongoing process. I've been back for 2.5, almost 3 years now, and I'm still learning. I'm still making progress. It's an ongoing process. It's something that you have to stick with. Some of the changes, some of the ways that combat might have affected you, these things might be permanent, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. You learned a lot. Learned a lot of things, and some of these we can apply to the civilian world. They can really take you far. So don't get discouraged if you find that some habits are just hard to shake. You might not need to shake them entirely. You might just need to modify them slightly for the civilian world. And I also want you to understand that there is nothing wrong with you. Everything that you're experiencing, it has probably been experienced by someone else at some point, some other veteran returning from combat. Not to say that you're not unique as an individual, but there's nothing wrong with you. The way you're reacting is perfectly natural. Some of these things can be harmful though, and it's important that we deal with them appropriately. And people here, unfortunately, most of them, they just don't understand. They're just caught up in their own little world. They've never been outside of this country. Some of them have never even left their state or their city or town or whatever, and they just don't get that there's other hardships out there. There's real pain and suffering in the world, and they take for granted the freedoms that they experience every day. They don't realize that for everything they're able to do, someone else had to fight for that. Someone else had to give them that ability. And it's sad, but try as hard as you can not to overly express anger with these people. It's just going to draw unwanted attention, and it's going to make things more difficult. So try to stay cool. Keep your military bearing, as it were. Alright, first of all, I want to jump ahead in my notes. This is not going to be a full video about seeking professional help for your problems, but I think this is very important. It's something that I took advantage of. There's there's the VA out there. There's lots of different resources, lots of organizations willing to help out returning veterans that are having trouble transitioning. The one that I personally sought out and took advantage of was something called the Vet Center. Now, the Vet Center is an organization. They provide a lot of things. They do group therapy. They do one-on-one counseling sessions with a therapist. And I don't quite understand the relationship with the VA. I know they're not technically part of the VA, but they can coordinate with them. They can set up appointments for you and whatnot, hook you up with different people through the VA, but they're not technically part of the VA. Another thing about them is all of their employees are veterans. They might not be combat veterans, but they are all veterans. So they can relate to you on one level or another. So for me, a while ago, I was at the end of my rope. I was, just down in the dirt. I had broken up with a woman, and I was just all out of options. I was depressed. I was not functional at all. Could barely get myself out into the world, and it was just my last resort. I found, a phone number on an old refrigerator magnet or business card or something, I don't even remember, but called him up, the vet center. The man on the phone, he was very nice, very polite, also a veteran, and I told him, I just feel it's time for me to get some help. I've been, I just can't deal with this. I can't do it on my own anymore. So he said, hey, why don't you come on down? We'll get you hooked up with something. So I went down there. He got me set up with a therapist, and for about a year I continued one-on-one sessions with a therapist who was, of course, a veteran, as all their employees are. And that really helped me a lot. He also set me up with a psychiatrist at the VA. Now, I was very skeptical at first. I was very stubborn and reluctant to try medications. Like a lot of people, I just figured I don't want to be stuck on this thing for the rest of my life. Who am I? What kind of man am I if I can't, deal on my own without medications? But that's not always the case. My psychiatrist, she wanted me to go on a medication, an antidepressant, for a period of time. Not permanently, not indefinitely, but for a period of time, to sort of get me over the hump. And this antidepressant obviously helps out with symptoms of depression, which a lot of returning veterans experience, but also symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder and hypervigilance. It did wonders for me, sort of got me over the hump, and I'm completely satisfied. I have no regrets about trying it, and I would encourage anyone, who is at that point, if you find yourself with medication being an option, you've exhausted everything else, go ahead and give it a shot. The worst that could happen is it's a waste of your time, which, if you're down in the dirt right now and you're struggling just to live day to day, then you're already wasting your time. So why not go ahead and give it a shot? So the Vet Center, excellent resource. I'll post a link and a phone number in the description. Check them out. If you're experiencing any thoughts of harming yourself, or if you just feel like you need to talk to somebody, nobody understands, they can do wonders for you. Highly recommend them. And there's many others out there, but that's the one that I took advantage of personally, and have no regrets, have no complaints whatsoever. They did wonders for me. Moving on, making the transition. So when we come back here, we find that a lot of things are a big deal to us that aren't perceived as a big deal to most other people around us, these civilians that we have to interact with and deal with every day. Little things like, vehicle maintenance. Overseas, if you were on a lot of convoys like I was, a lot of patrols, something as simple as a flat tire can literally be the difference between life and death. It can be the difference between having a good day and coming home in pieces, or going out and coming home with all your battle buddies, or possibly losing a few. These little things are a big deal. But here, people just don't see it that way, and they don't understand why it's such a big deal to us. So that can be frustrating, but as hard as it might be, try and hold that back. Try and not get so angry with people, because they just don't get it. They don't understand. Hypervigilance is another issue. This is one that can also be very destructive. If you find yourself on edge all the time, like I did when I returned home, for me it got to the point where I found myself living alone. I was in an apartment by myself. I had moved in there with a girlfriend. Me and her, we moved there together. We had all these wonderful plans for the future, and dumb whore ended up leaving me, took all the furniture, left me with all the bills. So I was there by myself for a period of time, and I was so on edge that every day, after I was done with work and done with my running around and whatnot, when I got home, I would have to literally tactically clear my apartment. I'd have to go through room by room, every crevice. I'd have to make sure that there was no one there. And then once I was done, once I had secured my apartment, I would not only deadbolt the door, but I would also bar it to where you couldn't physically turn the doorknob, you couldn't open the door. unless from the inside, and you remove the bar first. So, and also I'd always keep a weapon on hand. I'd always have my loaded Springfield XD 45. I'd sleep with it on my nightstand. Actually, for a while I didn't have a nightstand because the bitch took all the furniture, so I'd sleep on the floor, have it loaded, ready to go next to me. And a lot of people that I shared this with, they were kind of worried. You know, they were like, hey man, you need to get some help. And that might be perceived as unhealthy, but I feel that it actually helped me, you know. And this is not something I learned from therapy. This is strictly for me. It's one of my own methods that I developed for coping. You know, it allowed me to relax, and I think that's very important for, you know, at least just a few hours a day, create what I called my safe place. And I could go to it, you know, once I was done for the day. I was in my safe place, it was cleared, I was completely safe, no threats around, nobody could get in, and I could relax. I could read a book, you know, I could do homework, I could surf the internet, watch episodes of TV shows, you know, whatever you do to relax. I think that's very important that you at least have that bare minimum of 3 or 4 hours a day before bed where you can just chill out. You know, you don't have to worry, you don't have to be on edge. You can just be relaxed, be at peace, and do what you like to do. Enjoy yourself. And for me, that was very helpful for that period of time. You know, because it allowed me to recuperate and to recharge my battery. You know, I wasn't. It allowed me to sleep better at night. I wasn't waking up every hour or so because I'm freaking out because, hey, somebody could be in here. No, I'm chilled out. I know I'm safe. I know I'm good. Everything's good. I can just relax. Because being on edge all the time, it takes a toll not only on your mind but on your body. You know, it can lead to some very unpleasant symptoms mentally and also physically. You find yourself just being worn out all the time. You don't have any energy, and it's because you're constantly worked up. You know, that fight or flight response, it's constantly on. It's been, you know, permanently switched on. You don't turn it off, so you burn a lot of energy and you're just exhausted. You're just wiped out all the time. It's very unhealthy. So, you know, create a safe place of your own is what I would recommend. Some place that you can escape to where you know you're safe and you can do, you know, what you need to do. You can relax for that period of time every day. Also, driving was a big adjustment for me. Honestly, I'm still adjusting. It's still one of the most stressful events that I have to deal with every day is driving. People here are crazy. You know, they cut you off, they ride your ass, give you the finger, flash their lights at you, honk at you, whatever. They're just stupid. You know, they don't think about safe distance. You know, when I was overseas, I was on convoys. We had, you know, intervals. You had to maintain your intervals, the distance between you and the vehicle ahead of you. You know, not only in case somebody has to slam on the brakes, but also for things like IEDs. If you get too close, the enemy could potentially take out 2 birds with 1 stone. But if you keep your distance, you know, if they set something off, it's just 1 vehicle as opposed to 2 or possibly even 3 that get affected by it. Vehicle spacing, speed, convoy speed. I was used to being like 40, 45 miles an hour, so I come back here, first time, get on the highway doing 40, 45 miles an hour. People are flying past me, they're honking at me, you know, getting to their McDonald's, their job that they're late for, you know, all this stupid shit that people think is a big deal that we don't really care about. You know, safety is first, safety is number 1 always. But here it's not like that. People don't think that way. So my solution to that was to get a big truck. Drive a big truck now. People are more inclined to stay out of my way. They still might ride my ass, but you know, I just try my best to ignore them. driving my big honking diesel 4x4 manual, and people are more inclined to stay out of my way than otherwise if I was driving a tiny car or something like I used to drive all the time. It also, another benefit to that, helps me getting around in the wintertime. You know, that 4x4, that four-wheel drive. This winter has been particularly rough here in St. Louis. We get a lot of bad winters here, lots of snowfall, ice, lots of nasty weather conditions, but four-wheel drive, had no problem. Just, you know, keep on trucking. Everybody else is stuck, they can't get out. Doesn't hurt me none. So anyway, drive a big truck. That's my solution to driving. Another thing, there's a mental aspect to it. You know, it's kind of depressing coming back here sometimes. You know, all these people, they're just flying by. Everything's about me, 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 me. There's no concept of team. You know, there's no mentality of, hey, what I do affects these people around me. It's just me, me, me. So, you know, for me, I try to think about it sort of like I'm in zombie land, or, you know, some sort of post-apocalyptic zombie scenario where I'm one of the few normal, sane people left, and, you know, I've got my friends that I talk to that are also normal and sane, maybe some of them. But all these other people, you know, flying past me on the highway, jumping ahead of me in the line at the grocery store, they're all just zombies. That's how I like to think of it. And that helps. You know, it's not the most optimistic view of the world, but for me it helps. You know, helps me deal with the day-to-day. All these stupid, ignorant, inconsiderate people, just think of them like zombies. And I do my own thing. You know, that's pretty much it as far as transitioning back into civilian life. That's really about all the tips I have for you. Definitely, if your problems seem to be overwhelming, or if you have thoughts of harming yourself, if you constantly find yourself having thoughts of harming others, maybe, like I did as well, definitely check out the Vet Center. Great resource. Don't be ashamed. You know, there's no shame in admitting that a problem is too great for you to handle on your own. You know, you might need some help. These people at the Vet Center, they're battle buddies. You know, they're veterans. They're people that have been there. They know what it's like. You know, it's no different than reaching out to your battle buddies for help or advice on something. Because they are. They're all veterans. They're battle buddies. Check them out. Again, I'll post a link and a phone number in the description. You know, creating your safe place, I found that to be very helpful for me. Did wonders for me. Driving, just get used to it. Get used to the crazies out there. You know, take your safety measures. You know, drive at a safe speed. Keep safe distance. And we'll get into vehicle maintenance later. That's something I really want to go over. Vehicle maintenance, also purchasing vehicles, is something I want to get into in later episodes. But for now, you know, just do your thing. If you have a big truck, buy it. If you don't, hey, get a big truck. It helps. So, 4x4. It's got to be 4x4, and I would recommend diesel. I'm a diesel guy. You might not be, but, you know, to each his own. What else? Zombies. And also just get into this generalized mentality of, I don't give a shit about your social norms. You know, we have to pay attention to them. If you want to get anywhere in this society, you have to understand and recognize the social norms that are in place. You have to know behavioral patterns in the society, but don't give so much of a shit about individual opinions about what you do. You know, for me, I've got plans. I've got an agenda. That's another important thing. Having an agenda, having goals. I've got my goals. I've got some big plans for myself. And as far as getting there, you know, I've settled in my mind that I'm a good person. I'm a good friend. I'm a good coworker. I help people out when they're in need. I treat people with respect and dignity. I censor myself, you know, when I'm in the general public and around small children. But anything else, as far as how I behave, how I interact with people, I generally don't give a shit what people think about me. I'm not going to let social norms hold me back from achieving my goals. It would be a complete waste of my life. I don't care what the general public thinks about me. You can think what you want. It doesn't hurt me at all. So if you can get into that mentality of not being so self-conscious to where, you sacrifice yourself in order to fit in. Your goal shouldn't be to fit in. Your goal should be to live a fulfilling life. And if fitting in compromises this, then why the hell do you need to fit in? It just doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, so get to that point where you can just not give a shit about necessarily fitting in with the norm. Just do you. Be yourself. Be happy. Achieve things. Go out there, accomplish your goals. Don't worry, don't let the naysayers hold you back. What else? Moving on, last but not least, I would like to encourage you to get your ass back into school. No matter what it is, just get out there and do something. You have this Montgomery GI Bill. It's a benefit that you've worked for. You've already done the work for it. You don't have to sign any contract. You already did that years ago. You worked for these benefits, but you're never going to see the benefits unless you get your ass back into school, no matter what it is. Even if you want to do something like a trade school, you want to be a mechanic, you want to be a welder, carpenter, a framer, whatever. There's trade schools out there that you can go to that will help you learn this profession and get you a head start. And the Montgomery GI Bill will pay you to do this. It might not entirely cover your tuition, but it will help you. Or if you don't know what the hell you want to do, go to a community college, talk with a career counselor, an advisor there, discuss your interests, take their little placement tests, whatever. Get enrolled into something, and the government will pay you to do this. And most likely, if you're going to a community college or an inexpensive trade school, then the benefits, the payments that you get from the GI Bill will cover most, if not all, of your tuition. For me, I go here currently to St. Louis Community College, and it is actually the cheapest school in the state. And not only does my full-time job reimburse me for my tuition, but on top of that, I get the Montgomery GI Bill. So I'm sort of like double or triple dipping. I get my regular full-time job wages. They reimburse me for my tuition as long as I pass the class. And then also I get these Montgomery GI benefits. It's free money. Well, not free money, but it's money that you've already worked for that's just sitting there. So get your ass back into school, do something. It can't hurt. The worst that happens is you learn something. What harm is there in that? You could discover something. You get back into your gen ed courses, you find, hey, I really like chemistry, or I really like physics. Hey guys and gals, my camera cut off at the last minute there, but that pretty much sums it up. Stay in drugs, say no to school. That's it. We'll see you next time. This is the Soldier's Manual Civilian Edition. I'm Doc Nasty. This is Lex. She's my kitty. She's a good kitty. So take it easy, and we'll see you in the next video.